He sat on the same bench every morning, always alone, always staring at the lake as if waiting for something or someone. No one ever spoke to him. No one ever asked why he was there. To the people in town, he was just the old man in the gray coat, a fixture in the park, like the rusted lampposts or the broken water fountain near the swings. He came right after sunrise, his steps slow but steady, holding a leather bag that had clearly seen better days. Inside it, a simple sandwich wrapped in brown paper, and a small sketchbook with pages yellowed by time. Every day, he opened the book, stared at it, but never drew a line. His hands would tremble, eyes would well up, and then he'd simply close it, put it back, and sit in silence watching the ducks or the fog roll across the water. People passed. Joggers, mothers with strollers, teens on scooters. No one stopped. No one asked. Until the boy. He must have been 10. Red hoodie, grass-stained jeans, shoelaces always untied. He was loud, curious, and not afraid to speak his mind. His mom usually walked ahead, distracted by her phone, while he skipped and wandered around. One morning, he saw the old man, watched him for a minute, then walked over. "Hey, you always sit here." The man turned, startled. His voice was rough, unused. "Yes. Why?" Silence. The boy plopped down beside him, swinging his legs. "My name's Jacob. What's yours?" The man hesitated, then quietly said, "Arthur." Jacob smiled. "Cool name. You live around here?" "Yes." "Do you have a dog?" "No." "Do you have kids?" The question lingered. Arthur's eyes drifted to the lake. He didn't answer. Jacob waited, then looked down at the man's bag. "You draw?" "Not anymore." "Why not?" Arthur took a deep breath, the kind that seemed to carry years inside. "I used to draw my wife, my doll, my son, but now..." He swallowed. "They're not around anymore." Jacob grew quiet. He looked at the old man's hands, rough, lined, tired. He didn't know what to say, so he didn't say anything. The next day, Arthur came to the bench again, and so did Jacob. "Brought you something," the boy said, pulling a packet of crayons from his backpack. "They're not fancy, but maybe you can draw something today." Arthur smiled. It was faint, but it was the first time he had smiled in years. He took the crayons with shaky hands. "Thank you, Jacob." From that day on, things changed, slowly. They didn't talk much, but they sat together. Sometimes Jacob showed Arthur his school drawings, dragons, rockets, badly drawn cats. Arthur would chuckle. Other times, Arthur would draw the lake, the trees, the world as it was before. One day, he even drew Jacob messy hair, bright eyes, wide smile. But Jacob kept wondering. He finally asked, "Where's your family, Arthur?" Arthur looked at him for a long time, then looked away, and whispered, "They left. Long ago. A car accident. My wife, my daughter, gone. My son moved far away. We haven't spoken in 10 years. Jacob blinked. "That's really sad." Arthur nodded. "Yes. But maybe life gives us second chances. In small forms. Like crayons. And kids who ask too many questions." Jacob smiled. "That's me." Arthur looked at the boy, and for the first time in a decade, he felt like life hadn't completely forgotten him. He looked out over the lake, and smiled again. And Jacob, sitting next to him, leaned his head on the old man's shoulder. No more questions. Just silence. Just warmth. The mornings felt different now. Arthur no longer looked like a forgotten statue on the park bench. He came with a spark in his eyes, a gentler pace, and sometimes even a second sandwich. One for Jacob. The old man had started drawing again. Not just landscapes or distant memories, but moments. Small, quiet ones. Jacob holding a balloon. Jacob chasing pigeons. Jacob eating ice cream with most of it on his nose. Life was returning to Arthur's hands, one sketch at a time. One day, Jacob brought a photo, a family picture, his mom, his little sister, and someone missing. "My dad left when I was 5, Jacob said softly. "He never called back. Mom says he lives far away now, somewhere with no time for kids." Arthur looked at the boy, his voice trembled. I know what that's like." They sat quietly, both carrying invisible scars. Two different stories, same hollow corners in their hearts. Jacob reached into his bag and pulled out a piece of paper. I made something for you. It was a crayon drawing, two stick figures on a bench, one with gray hair, the other in a red hoodie. Above them, the sun smiled down. Arthur blinked fast. That's us. Jacob nodded. Now, you're not alone anymore. That night, Arthur didn't sleep. He opened his old sketchbook, the one he hadn't touched in years. Slowly, he flipped to a page where an unfinished portrait of a young man looked back at him. His son. He remembered their last fight. The words, the silence that followed. Years had passed, but the pain still clung to him like morning fog. But something inside had shifted. The next morning, Arthur brought something different to the bench. An old envelope, yellowed, unopened, addressed to his son. A letter he had written but never sent. He handed it to Jacob. Will you help me find him? Jacob's eyes widened. Your son? Arthur nodded. I don't want to leave things broken. It took days. Jacob asked his mom for help. They used her phone, old contacts, social media. At last a name, a city, a workplace, a message sent, then a reply, and finally, a meeting. Arthur stood at the edge of the park, hands shaking, eyes scanning every face. Then, he saw him. Tall brown jacket, eyes just like his late wife's. His son. They stared at each other, unsure, afraid. Years had passed. Wrinkles had come. Words had faded. But blood never forgets. His son stepped forward. Arthur opened his mouth, then closed it again. He held out the letter. The young man took it, read the first few lines, then pulled his father into a hug so deep, the years between them melted like snow. Jacob watched from the bench, smiling. Later, Arthur sat beside Jacob again. Thank you, he whispered. You gave me more than crayons. You gave me a reason. Jacob grinned. You gave me one too. That day, the bench didn't look so lonely. It looked like a beginning. Arthur still came to the park, still brought his sketchbook, but now, sometimes his son joined him, sometimes Jacob, sometimes both. And people noticed. The old man in the gray coat was no longer just a quiet figure by the lake. He was a story, a second chance, a reminder that even when life forgets you, it doesn't. Not forever.